How to use a drying reagent. Now, a drying reagent is a chemical used to remove only traces of water from an organic compound that is in a solution. Now, some common examples of drying reagents are calcium chloride, magnesium sulfate, and sodium sulfate. We're going to be using magnesium sulfate, and that drying reagent works pretty well with diethyl ether. It's actually a slightly acidic drying reagent and is able to cover a pretty big surface area because of how fine the magnesium sulfate powder is. Now, within this experiment, I used a 125 ml flask which had diethyl ether and water, and I take some magnesium sulfate, just a spatula, and I drop it into my flask. Now I am swirling the flask, making sure that all the magnesium sulfate is absorbing the traces of water, and I'm pretty much looking for a snow globe consistency, as some of the magnesium sulfate will be free floating as well as sticking to the bottom of the flask. Now, our next step is gravity filtration, and that is when we extract the traces of water from our organic layer. Now, with that, we must first fold up our filter paper and then place it within the funnel, and then take our solution that's in the flask and pour it through the funnel into our beaker. Now, our organic layer should filter through into the beaker, leaving our magnesium sulfate and water on top of the filter paper. Now again, drying reagents are only used to remove the traces of water. Now, and another important note to keep in mind is that within an experiment, you are not going to be given an exact amount of magnesium sulfate to use. Keep in mind when performing this experiment, some common mistakes is adding too much drying reagent, which can lead to a loss of product, or not adding enough drying reagent, which doesn't allow for all the traces of water to be absorbed from the magnesium sulfate. Now, to avoid these mistakes, make sure to only add a spatula full at a time and to swirl in between, looking for that snow globe consistency.